If you're clicking on this video, then you have either taken your first attempt of your BCBA exam and you failed, or you are stressing because you are about to take your exam and you're like, what if I fail?
Oh God, oh man, what now?
I am here to tell you that I failed my first attempt in July 2024 by like 30 points. Hi, I am Ray. I am officially a BCBA. And I wanted to share with you guys my story about my experiences failing and then passing my BCBA exam, because I am somebody who is I have a hard time with reading growing up. I was a kid of that, like, so embarrassing, of getting pulled out of classroom to go get extra help with reading. I was in speech therapy up until like 6th grade when I told my mom, like, I'm not going there anymore.
I will not allow that.
Yes, you can still hear that I can barely talk. It's okay. I'm working on it. In junior high, I was still getting pulled out of different classes to get help with reading. When they had those little 1-minute timers of how many words can you read in 1 minute, and I would get like 4. Like, if I can pass this exam, you guys, like, you can pass this exam. I promise you. But I know sometimes we got to sit in the moment of failure.
I'm a failure.
Like, I tried so hard. I studied my butt off. Like, I really gave this everything, and now I feel like a failure. Sometimes it's difficult to sit in that, but you can try again. The only way you ever be like a failure in life is if you stop trying. Like, you're not a failure if you keep trying, because one day you will succeed. Now, reflecting back on my study habits, like when I was taking the exam the first time, I can tell you that no mock exam is like the exam. No mock exam is like the exam. But I can also tell you that no 2 exams are exactly the same, because my first exam was completely different from my second attempt. Those was like completely different exams. You can practice as much as possible, practice as many questions as possible, but the real test is just knowing how to take the test, and do you know your concepts? That's really it. So when I think back to my study habits and I was taking the first exam, I didn't know everything. There was nothing on that exam that I did not know the answer to. I'm telling you, I knew the answers, but I wasn't prepared to know how to take the exam. So study material, because I know someone's gonna ask probably, like, what did I used to study? I used Study Nook's ABA. I took the 1-month course. In my opinion, it was okay. It was definitely great as an introduction of all the concepts in like a fun way. I would not say only do that. That's not something that you can take and then be okay and then be like, I'm ready to take this exam, because I done went back through my notes and I studied my notes over and over and over again. I do not recommend that. That is not what I did. I took the exam, I studied, but then I read the Cooper book. I know, sucks. I didn't read all the Cooper book. I read majority of the Cooper book during the first attempt, and then the second attempt I finished up all the chapters that I didn't read on the first attempt. But the first attempt, I read majority of the Cooper book. I did the Study Notes ABA, and I took a lot of mock exams. I took about 8. So I covered as much of the task list as I possibly can. Like I said, I didn't know everything on there. There wasn't anything that I know because of a certain way that I was studying. And I'll do that in a different video. Literally the next video I post will be about how I studied and remembered everything that I learned. I learned everything. I did everything right. The problem was the test is less about what you know, but how to apply it. So one thing that I really underestimated when I was going into this exam was ethics. Ethics is definitely going to be your cheat sheet to everything. When I tell you everything, like, they literally tell you everything in the ethics code on how to take the exam, and when you're looking at the questions, like how they want you to answer it based off of what they deem as the most appropriate. Because the first test that I got, all the questions, it felt like every single question was like, all of these answers are right, but which is the most right? What? It's like, wait, what are you talking about?
Okay.
If all the answers are right, I'm not understanding. Like, I didn't understand what they wanted from me. Or which is the best answer? They're all good answers. And I'm like, I don't understand what you want from me. But in the ethics code. And what is the other people? I did study with, what is it called? No, I'll put them in a link. They do a really good job at explaining how to take the exam. I didn't really care too much about like the concepts of understanding them because like I said, I knew the concepts, but it was more so how to take the exam that I was like, oh, okay, got it. So here are some things that I've watched in their videos that like helped me out a lot. It says client first. Whenever you get answers, questions about what you're gonna do or how you're gonna do this or whatever the case may be, the answer, they typically want you to pick the answer that best represents the client the most. So the client first, the client needs first, the client wants first. If you get a question saying like the assessment said that these skills need to be worked on, client is lacking these skills, but the parent want client to start doing dishes more at home and do more home chores, but you feel like the client needs to focus more on fine motor skills, but the client likes to go to the coffee shop and help clean the tables and act like they work there. Which intervention would you choose? And then it got like, they would really want you to say the one where you can pick an intervention that kind of wraps in with what the client wants. The second one, they want you to go based off the science and the data. So if client needs are already taken care of, they want you to go with science next. Seems easy enough. The third one is they want you to do the most parsimony thing or intervention. What is the simplest intervention? If you have something, they're going to have questions like, oh, your staff members, they talk too much, basically. But you know that certain staff members like to be outside, and these staff members only talk so much because they don't have nobody in the room with them, and this, that, and the third. Like, what would you want to do? The easiest one is to give them a roommate, like, or go have something more space outside. I don't know. Pick the intervention that is the simplest. They don't want you to go with the most complex thing to do. They want you to just pick the simplest thing to do. What's the simplest thing? Do it. I know. Who knew? But piggybacking off of that one, because same scenario, they'll ask you a certain question of saying like, oh, all these clients, they talk too much basically, and this, that, and the third. What do you want to do? You want to write them up? Are you going to give them a warning? You're going to do this? Or you're going to give them like a 5-minute break in between so they can have talk time with somebody else? You would think, because most work write-ups will be, most workplaces will be like, oh, well, give them a warning. No, it's, oh, pick something that is more reinforcing for them. So give them like a 5-minute break to where they can talk to people. It's like, never choose punishment, even when it's with your work staff. Even when it's with the people you work with, you don't choose punishment. You always choose like a reinforcer for them. What is going to be a reinforcer for them? I know. Just don't think like, and they don't even do that in the actual workplace. They don't do that with us as RBT. Well, I was RBT. They don't do that, but they want you to take the test and think like that. Another tip is, if the scenario already said that they did it, the answer is not going to be to do it again. So if they say that they already did a training and they've already modeled it and they did all of these things in this scenario, and then one of the answers is going to be like, do we retrain them? Well, if you already did it, you don't do the same thing over and over. That's probably never going to be the answer, so you can scratch that one off, pick something different. They have another one, which is direct over indirect. You want to pick the most direct answer, especially when it comes to data collection. So they'll have a question like, you want to see how client progress is doing. What do you do? Are you going to go ask the RBT? Are you going to ask the mom how she's feeling about progress? Are you going to look at the data sheets to see, or are you going to go sit in a session with the RBT? Well, the most direct would be go sit in a session with the RBT. But if that's not a choice, then you'll look at the data sheets. I know. You would think the answer would be go look at the data sheets. But that's not the most direct. The most direct will be to go observe the client live in person. So annoying. I know. When it comes to interventions, they always want you to choose reinforcement first. I knew that part though. Always choose reinforcement first. Never choose punishment unless they say they have done everything they possibly can when it comes to reinforcements, and then they have to opt to like a punishment procedure. That goes with staff members too, not just clients. That goes with staff members. You have to do it for both. Take client preferences into consideration. So like I said, if client likes to go to the coffee shop and act like they work there or do something, like take that in consideration of the things that the client likes to do. I knew this one, but always have a replacement behavior for if you're going to change something. If you're going to take a behavior out, you got to replace it with something new. There's going to be some tricky ones in there on that exam about that too. And I feel like if I would have knew all of those ahead of time, I probably would have did better on my exam, because I swear the second time I took the exam, I just kept that, like you'll put that on your little whiteboard that they give you, and you just make sure you have all of that down, all that information down right there. And when you read each question and then you answer it based off of like that, it does help, because it's like you can start checking off, oh, it's not that. Because like I said, the exam that I got, the two exams that I got, although they were completely different, like I felt like the first one was heavy on supervision and ethics, or maybe that's because those are the areas that were my weakness. But the second exam, I felt like it was just like every question was right. It was like no question that was like wrong. Everything was like, oh, what's the best one? Everything's the right. Basically, all of these answers are right, which is the most right type of questions. And I'm like, but it helped when I had like that on my white list. Cause I'm like on my whiteboard, because I'm like, okay, okay, I can just start checking off these answers, because okay, that's not that. It's not that because of this. It's not that because of that. Okay, got it. And you know. When it comes to like your mock exam at home, you can still use that same method, but it depends on which mock exams that you're taking, because a lot of some mock exams focus more heavily on fluency, and other mock exams, like I've never taken the study notes mock exams. I don't know what theirs is like. I've taken like ABA Wizards. Theirs is based off of fluency. I've taken I don't know what they're called. I will put them on the screen, but theirs is like difficult. They like, if you can pass ours, then you can pass the exam. And I took theirs, and I passed barely. I was in like the 70s, so I was like barely passing theirs. But the first time I took theirs, I did not pass. Like I was taking them and I failed. I got like a 50 something on their first mock exam, A or whatever, but I didn't look at the answers or anything. I just went back to the drawing boards. I was studying again, and then I went back and I retook the same test, but like I said, I didn't look at the answers, so I don't know what the answers was originally. I started improving my answers and choosing differently, because I was explaining why I was choosing differently. So it helps, like if you're going to retake the same exam over and over again, don't look at the answers, because now your brain knows which one is the right answer versus which one is the wrong answer. So, pro tip. I feel like a lot of people focus heavily when they study on like the areas that they know best, and that is definitely going to harm you. When you're studying, try to study the back of the task list first, because that's going to be the most important. Start from IH and go down, up the task list, because you're starting backwards. I don't know. Don't start at A and B and C, because those are probably going to be the ones that you get the highest. And people typically get like caught up on F, E, G, I, H, because those are more of how do you apply it versus do you know the concept and do you know what it means. Focus heavily on that. Do not sleep on your ethics. Take as many practice exams as you possibly can. I'm not saying it in the sense of it's going to be exactly like the real one. That's not what I'm saying. But it helps you increase your time when you're taking a test, because the first couple of practice exams I took with time. Like I told you, I am a slow reader. I have a hard time. Like my brain just processes things very slowly. Sometimes I have to read the questions 2-3 times before my brain just processes the information. Every time I took a timed practice exam, I barely had 1 minute left. Like I barely had any time left. When I took the first exam, I didn't have any time to even go back through and check any questions at all. When I took my second exam, I only had 5 minutes to go back through and check my flag questions. Take as many practice questions that are timed, and like just to build up that tolerance of being able to sit there, read faster, and mark their answers and just keep moving forward. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. I did not go to the restroom. I don't know how people be going to the restroom during them exams. Like I said, I didn't have time. I didn't have any time, so I had no time to spare. I couldn't go to the restroom. I'm not a fast reader. But if you have the time to, please take a break during. I didn't have it in me. Sorry. When you take your practice exams, don't take your practice exams in a quiet room. That is going to hurt you. I know people be like, oh, well, make it more like a testing center and try to have no distractions. The testing center has buzzing sounds because all the computers and the monitors, there's constant buzzing that drove me crazy. I put the headphones on, but then the headphones was like squeezing my brain, so I had to take them off because I'm like, this is uncomfortable. Try to take the exams in messy environments. Try to take them and listen to music while you're taking them. Be around your kids if you got them while you're taking them. Don't be in a real quiet, isolated room because it's going to throw you off when you start hearing all these other buzzing sounds and people coming in and out of the testing center, and there's sometimes chatter when somebody is done taking their test right next to you. Like, it's pointless. I'm going to be honest with you. The tips I have for you for testing day: go in it with the mindset of, if I fail, it is okay, because I'm just going to do it again, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I failed. I didn't tell anyone I was taking an exam. I was ashamed. I was like hiding the paper. I was like hiding my failed paper. Because I didn't want people to know. Like, my sister, I came in the day I failed, and I was like, I folded it up and like stuffed it in the book. Like, this is horrible. Like, everybody seen me studying for so long and I failed. But it didn't take long before I was just like, I'm going to get back to it. So accept the fact that you failed and that you're not going to give up. You're going to try again. Well, my advice for you to be is, if you do fail, and if you're watching this and you're like, I've already failed, or if you're watching this and then you're like, oh, I'm about to take the test tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to fail, but then that results are you did fail. My tip to you will be, take some time off of studying. You do not have to jump right back into it. I did not jump right back into it. I failed my test in July. I passed my test in September. I took all majority of August off. I studied for 10 days before I passed in September. That was it. That was it. And like I said, it really was basically those tips that I gave you was like bread and butter of what I needed to pass the next exam. And if you really want to know like what I did studying wise, like how did I learn everything, how did I study everything and remember everything, because I did know and I still do know all this information, make sure you subscribe so you can watch this next video, or if I already put it up, it's going to be right here, of how I learned to study to pass my BCBA exam. I'm Ray, and I'll see you later. Bye.